All right, so ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for the next half of today's discussions? Do I hear a yes? All right, I love such a crowd that keeps interacting with us. It just feels amazing. All right, so the next segment is another keynote session that we have, and the topic for this is corporate perspective, the role of BFSI in meeting business needs. And for this, may I request Mr. Giridhar Sanjeevi, Chief Financial Officer of the Indian Hotels Company Limited, to come on stage and enlighten us. Over to you, sir.
Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So I think when I think Avinash asked me to speak on this, I think when I heard I was going to be speaking to a bunch of bankers and fintech guys, I said, what am I going to speak actually? So to make it very authentic, I'm just going to speak about our own experience at Indian Hotels in terms of how we are dealing with bankers. I think we have great bankers. I think during the pandemic, when our loans went sky high, I think all the bankers, all our relationship bankers gave us lots of money actually. Today we are in a situation where we don't have any debt on our balance sheet. We have something like 2,000 crores cash on our balance sheet. So the situation is completely reversed. So my small treasury team, which was hitherto specialists in sort of negotiating one loan document after another, has actually nothing to do. So then I said, guys, it's time for you guys not to think in terms of being external treasury in terms of borrowing, but let's become an internal treasury in terms of helping our operating model and drive margins actually. Because ours is a very, very, very interesting business where we are customer facing primarily. We have a huge vendor ecosystem. We have lots and lots of things which keep happening because the whole travel industry is kind of changing actually. And yet, so when I started talking to banks saying that how can you add value in all these areas, it has been completely frustrating actually. It's been completely frustrating. And I want to share with you the perspective of how banks may need to change their mindsets in order to help a corporate in terms of what I call as improving the operating models and helping improve margins. But the traditional ways I think need to be rethought actually. I have just a couple of slides. I just wanted to put it up and talk through this. Really speaking, one of the things that I like concept is a concept of a customer success manager actually. If you go to, recently we signed up with one of the large ERP systems, and many of these people have customer success managers, which means they are responsible for the total success of the customer actually. Historically, the customer success manager in the banking world has been driven by the corporate banking team, which has the lending portfolio, which means somebody will come to you and say, I have some money to lend, and he becomes the primary responsibility. Somewhere down the line in the last few years, the banks realize, "Arey, hum to home loan bhi karte hain, hum to sab kuch karte hain, so cross-selling karenge." So the whole cross-selling bandwagon came, and therefore what happens is that if you have a problem with CASA, they'll come to us and say, surplus money hamare paas lagao kya? It's a transactional conversation. Supposing this, can you talk to our employees? Can we talk to your employees to open bank accounts with us? I think these are all transactional conversations actually. But the point is there is no customer success manager actually. So I think the first thing that I think banks need to do is to introduce the customer success concept, and therefore the relationship manager need not necessarily be the corporate banker actually. I think that is something that I really want to emphasize actually. And what do I mean by that? And I think, see, for instance, if you look at our business, and let me just go to the next slide and I'll come back to this. If I take the customer journey, for us customer journey is very, very critical actually. We have some 5 million members in the loyalty base. We serve many, many more who are not on our loyalty base. We are opening 2 hotels a month, which means we have more than 200 hotels actually, and we are global actually. So what do we want with customers? A few things. Click through to hotel websites, ultimately. I think for instance, you have some of these banks which have credit card websites which allows you to book hotels as an example actually. Now maybe it can be clicked through to hotel websites, is it possible? Secondly, buy now, pay later. I think buy now, pay later in the travel industry is still not very much there actually. Save now, buy later. Some startup came to me and said, save now, buy later. This is just like you go to Tanishq and open a fixed deposit scheme where you put money for 12 months and buy jewelry at the end of the month. I actually collect money from my customers who can save for a holiday actually. Then I said, gosh, what do you do with the money? But how the hell will I trust you with the money? He says, no, we don't take the risk of holding your money. We just put it in a mutual fund, which means it is not. We are just conduits actually. And if you cancel, so when the payment happens through the money there, and if it is, and if you cancel the trip, the mutual fund is redeemed and money given back to you actually. But these kind of schemes, I've not seen, a startup has spoken to me about it, but I've not seen any of my traditional bankers speak to me about how they can enable a buy now, pay later kind of schemes or a save now, buy later kind of schemes actually. I think these are just conversations not happening. Cheaper transaction costs, we have lots of, I think cheaper transaction costs, it's always a challenge. Credit card cost, this cost, that cost, all costs are there actually. So how do you make it cheaper transaction costs? Encouragement of UPI and debit cards, it's been absolutely frustrating that at the hotel level when guests check out, the percentage of people paying through UPI and debit cards is less than 5% actually. Why should that be the case? When you say that 75% of transactions are happening in UPI in the country, as one of the prior panelists said, in the hotel, it's only 5% which is happening through UPI and debit cards. What are my bankers doing about it actually? Are they taking any steps in terms of helping me up that? Through whatever mechanisms actually. I'm trying to put cards in hotels to say use UPI actually, but it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen actually. Like for instance, organizing cash collections actually, collection cycles. There's no active conversations around collection cycles because who's talking to me? It's the corporate banker talking to me. It's not the working capital specialist who's talking to me actually. It's the corporate banker talking to me. Travel and stay insurance, that's a big area. When you go to a Make My Trip, you can still insure your trip actually. But when you book a hotel booking, nobody tells you pay for 100 rupees and we can insure your stay in case you cancel. It will get paid, and as from our perspective, it makes sense because a last minute cancellation in today's world where you can't even store a credit card, I think allows me to collect. So, but nobody's talking to me about some of these things actually. Integrating airlines with hotel stays. You can book an airline, hotel stay, everything together. So I think customer journey is becoming extremely critical for me. Alliances, working with HNI clients, we have a huge database of clients. Banks come to us saying that we can do marketing. And these are again transactional conversations. You have your premier customers, you have A, B, C, all your senior customers of your bank, high net worth individuals. How can those alliances be better? How can you, for instance, have a common concierge as an example actually? Which kind of integrates what the bank does and what we do as an example. Those things are not happening. I think the point I'm trying to say is that the banks need to really understand customers like us as an example in terms of what is our business model and operating model and how can you dovetail that? How can you dovetail your services into that actually? And I can go on. I don't have too much time, but I think I can go on. But the point is take vendor and hotel partner, vendors, we have a massive vendor ecosystem actually. People come to us saying that hum to financing kar denge actually, hotel partners ko financing kar denge. But many of my vendors are fish, daily local vendors who supply fish as an example actually. Now the banks don't have any ability to fund them actually, don't have ability. Fintechs can fund. Some startup, and I'm making up this name, easypeasyloans.com can fund my customer. But the problem I have as a corporate is that I can't recommend an easypeasyloans.com because I'm expected to do diligence actually. Whereas if it's an HDFC bank or an ICICI bank, it's easy for me. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't need to see easypeasyloans.com if my bank is willing to do whatever arrangements it wants to do with easypeasy loans and makes the monies available. There's an app, there was a previous panel talking about how do you enable lending actually. I don't know if you have heard of this app in China called Yongsheng Bao actually. Yongsheng Bao is an app which is completely innovative. They are not a bank at all actually. Let's say that there is a 25-year-old guy going out with his girlfriend to a restaurant and the bill comes to some 5,000 rupees. I'm just making this example up. He doesn't have the money to pay, but he's registered on this app. So when the bill comes, what he does is that he goes to the app and says, I need to pay 5,000 rupees. And within 10 seconds, the app actually approves the loan. Now there is a bunch of banks sitting behind actually. And the banks then lend. They are completely dependent on the credit assessment that this app makes based on some 1,000 parameters actually. 1,000 parameters, and so the bank, a State Bank of India or any of these large banks have absolutely no ability to sanction an on-the-spot credit to somebody who's a 25-year-old, but this app can do it actually. Now, can you I don't know if such an app exists in India. It may be, I'm not aware of it. But I'm just saying that innovation is required, where the banks don't have to basically trust apps like that, which also talks about, there's a Harvard case study on this company called Yongsheng Bao actually, written by, people like, Krishna Palepu and all that. But basically these apps, and the collection record of the heuristic that the app uses ensures some 95-96% collections actually. So which means, and that allows the banks to sort of suddenly expand the bottom of the pyramid lending, and it can very well help me in terms of dealing with my own fish vendor who may need many times transactional credit for 1 week. You know, he's got an order, he doesn't have working capital, and then he kind of needs cash flow financing for a week. He fulfills that financing and it's done. It's done actually. It's not some 3-year loan or a 1-year loan or something like that actually. But these things are not happening at all actually. So the point I'm saying is that whatever you see, you know, while there is today a concept of a cross-selling, where my corporate banker comes and tells me, I will introduce you to the personal banker, I'll introduce you to the insurance guy, I will introduce you to so many other people. The reality of life is that I still have to deal with all those points individually actually, and there my corporate banker has just kind of done the handshake and gone away actually. Whereas if you have a concept of a customer success manager who says, you know, he takes responsibility for my success, which means that he doesn't care, he doesn't have any, what do you say, he's not attached to corporate banking, he's not attached to any part of the banking, but if he knows I have a need, he will make sure that the relevant parts of the organization come and he'll stick to, and he'll stay with me through actually. I think that's the thought I really wanted to leave. And one other frustrating thing I have, you know, we have been trying to do a number of different things with different banks actually. And I tell them, you know what, let's have monthly meetings where you give me a dashboard of how many new members you have enabled in terms of my Epicure membership or a Chambers membership. No such MIS exists. So what I'm trying to say is that if you treat me as a complete customer and sort of look at the potential of earnings and potential of what you can do, can you do a dashboard of report which kind of says, you know what, I have given you loan, so much loan. I have enabled vendor financing so much. I have enabled airline tickets and hotel tickets so much. I have kind of enabled Epicure membership so much. I have enabled Chambers membership, all in one single dashboard. I think the mindset has to change, guys. I think that's the thought I really wanted to leave with you, saying that the opportunities are huge. As people say, India is going to become such a big economy. There is so much opportunity to lend and so much opportunity to do lots of different things. But can the mindset change? I think that's the thought I want to leave with you. Thank you.